In the beginning stages, it feels like nothing is actually happening, and it feels like you're becoming even more aware of your patterns, and you start to think, oh my gosh, like, am I broken? Is there something wrong with me? I'm noticing myself show up in this way. I'm feeling myself pull back. I'm feeling myself be inconsistent. I'm feeling myself judge my partner even more. And you have all these things, all these feelings, and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm becoming even more aware of them now. Now that I know how they show up, now that I know the patterns, I'm noticing them more. Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is Sandra, and on this channel we talk about all things inner work, healing the fearful avoidant attachment, and healing out of survival mode. And for today's video, we're going to be talking about the different levels of healing fearful avoidant attachment. What does this actually look like while you are healing? Something that I didn't see often talked about is what it actually looks like to be healing the fearful avoidant attachment. There were a good amount of videos on the different patterns, on the different triggers, but there weren't a lot of videos on what healing actually looks like, on what a secure attachment actually looks like. So I feel like in order to actually be able to go from point A to point B, to be able to actually show up in a more secure way in a relationship, you have to know what that looks like, and you have to know what healing looks like, so that you know that you're on the right track, so that you actually can tell whether you're moving forward or not. And I know healing is not always linear. It was never linear for me. It's literally happens in layers, and sometimes more things click at a time than others, and sometimes you take 2 steps forward and 1 step back, and that is okay. That is still a sign of healing, and you are still showing up for yourself, and you are still doing the work. So I want to now share what that looks like in action, what that looks like in practice, so that you can evaluate this for yourself and see whether you're actually healing or not. Because I remember in the beginning, it was so hard for me to be able to tell whether I was actually on the right path, whether I was actually healing or not, because in the beginning stages, it feels like nothing is actually happening, and it feels like you're becoming even more aware of your patterns, and you start to think, oh my gosh, like, am I broken? Is there something wrong with me? I'm noticing myself show up in this way. I'm feeling myself pull back. I'm feeling myself be inconsistent. I'm feeling myself judge my partner even more. And you have all these things, all these feelings, and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm becoming even more aware of them now. Now that I know how they show up, now that I know the patterns, I'm noticing them more. But that is actually not a bad thing. And this is the first step to know whether you're actually healing or not, is becoming aware of your patterns, recognizing your patterns. Because without realizing what's actually going on, without being aware what's happening behind the scenes, why you're showing up in a certain way, why you're pulling back, why you're inconsistent, why you're judging your partner and criticizing your partner, you really have no way of knowing like where this comes from. So the first step to healing, when you learn more about these patterns, is you'll start to notice them. And that is a good sign. When you start to notice these things, do not beat yourself up for noticing them. You don't have to beat yourself up for noticing something and saying, oh my gosh, like, I know better. I know this pattern now. Like, why am I still showing up in this way? And then you start to judge yourself harshly, and then you put yourself back into those patterns, and it's even harder to come out of. So I want you to really try as hard as possible to release all judgments. See this as an experiment. Start to notice more of what's going on. Start to notice these patterns, and literally think to yourself like, wow, I am healing right now by noticing these patterns, by becoming aware of these things. I am actually healing right now. Instead of seeing it as, oh my God, all these things that I'm noticing now about myself make me a bad person, make me broken. Stop seeing it that way and start seeing it in a more positive light. Start seeing it as something that is actually helping you come closer to a more secure attachment style. Because the more you become aware of these patterns, the more you will be able to actually shift out of them. The more you see them for what they are, just patterns, just learned behavior, just something you picked up and repeated for a long time, the more you can actually get over these patterns and show up in a more conscious way, show up in a different way, and choose something different. But if you continue just to see them as a reason that there is something wrong with you, a reason that you're not a good person, a reason that you're just not adequate, if you continue to see them that way, they're not going to actually help you to heal this attachment style. So I want you to start seeing them in a more positive light and see them for what they actually are, just patterns, and you noticing them is helping you heal. And the second stage that you will start to notice as you heal the fearful avoidant attachment is you will start to notice yourself trying to put these things into practice, like learning what works and what doesn't, learning how to show up in a different way, but you're almost not able to show up in that way. Like the autopilot mode gets the best of you. So the first stage is you just notice it. And then you're like, oh my gosh, like what the heck is going on? And then the second stage is you notice it and you try to do something about it. But for some reason, you feel this resistance inside of you and you're not able to show up in a new way. And this makes sense because you've been used to showing up in this insecure way, in this fearful way for so long, and it is normal for you to show up on autopilot because that is a way to conserve energy. And it feels scary to show up in a new way. It feels scary to choose different beliefs. It feels scary to put yourself out there, to be vulnerable, to ask for your needs, to set boundaries. So it makes total sense that you struggle with this, but this is a good sign because that means you're on the path to healing. This is the second stage of healing, that you're actually trying to show up for yourself in a new way, show up in a new identity, show up in a more secure way. And even though it feels hard and there is so much resistance that comes with this, that is okay. That is a part of the process. That is a part of unlearning old habits and old beliefs and starting to show up in a new way and learning new ways of showing up. So that is a good sign, and it is something to celebrate. Whenever you notice yourself trying to show up in a new way, but you find yourself struggling and you go back to old ways of being, there is nothing wrong with that. Try to be compassionate with yourself and say, well, I didn't get it this time, but I know what to do. And then start to think of ways you could have responded differently. Start to think of ways that you could have shown up in a different way. Because a lot of the time, the issue with this is we've been used to showing up in a certain way for so long that we don't know any other way to show up. Our mind needs to expand to explore other ways of showing up, explore other ideas, to explore the idea of just being free to express yourself, the idea of just feeling free to ask for your needs, to set boundaries, because all of these things may feel foreign to you right now. And that is okay. So when you notice yourself not responding in a way that you would like, then you can sit down with yourself and think, how would I like to respond to a situation like this in the future when it happens again? If it happens again, how would I have preferred to respond to this? And start seeing yourself in your brain showing up in this way. Start seeing yourself in your brain. Okay, let's say your partner tries to get close to you and they try to be intimate and they're being very loving, and you notice yourself trying to pull away. Maybe you try to make a joke. Maybe you just try to break the intimacy somehow. And let's say you tell yourself, okay, like this time I made a joke to kind of like dissipate that feeling of intimacy, dissipate that feeling of connection because I didn't feel comfortable with it. What is something else I can do in the future to actually feel that love that I was being given? How can I actually receive that love, receive that connection? Maybe I can actually just give myself a few seconds to sit in that love, even if it feels uncomfortable. Maybe every single time I can increase how long I'm able to hold that for, how long I'm able to feel that for, before I can actually make the joke, before I can actually just push away, before I start to notice all the things that are wrong with them. And this is literally why I teach this in my Regulate Your Nervous System to Become Your Dream Woman. Because sometimes when we feel good, when we feel like we are connecting with someone, we're becoming intimate, we just feel too good when we've been used to stress, when we've been used to being scared, we literally want to run away from feeling good because it feels uncomfortable. And I've shared this before in my videos. Things that can seem unfamiliar to us and to our nervous system can register as unsafe in the body. And so even though connecting with your partner and feeling love and actually being intimate with them is a good thing, it can feel scary for you. And that makes so much sense, because you need to regulate yourself to a point where you can show your body that you are safe no matter what. You are safe with receiving connection, you are safe with receiving love, and you can expand your capacity for all of that. Because sometimes what we feel in our body is stress, tension, chronic pain, and we don't know what feeling good actually feels like. And when we start to feel good, we start to self-sabotage because it doesn't feel normal. We start to sabotage in ways like pushing our partner away. We start to sabotage in ways like maybe sabotaging our careers. We start to sabotage our relationship, start to sabotage maybe our workout routine that we've been doing well at. Whatever it is, it doesn't matter. But the point I'm trying to make is that you actually need to help your body feel safe in these moments, so that you're not constantly in fight, flight, or freeze, and you're trying to push your partner away constantly. When you show your body that you are safe, even though you feel uncomfortable emotions, let's say your partner hugs you and you don't know how to take that, or they're being really intimate and this is what you've been wanting, but you don't know how to deal with that because it's just not normal for you. It doesn't feel comfortable or natural. And so you need to show your body that you are safe while this is happening. And you're able to expand your capacity to feel that. You're able to feel safe in your body as this uncomfortable thing is happening, the more you regulate your nervous system to create that safety in your body. And if you're interested in this, I will leave the link to that down below. Moving on to level 3 that you will notice that you are healing this attachment style is you're actually able to follow through and show up in a different way, but maybe not as consistently. You're kind of going back and forth a lot in between. You're testing it out. You're going back and forth, and sometimes you're able to show up in this way and sometimes you're not able to. Sometimes you're able to show up and be loving and intimate, and then sometimes you're just closed off and you're trying to protect your energy. And then you're going back and forth between learning like how to set your boundaries, how to ask for your needs, because essentially that is literally what you are doing. You need these things. You need to be able to ask for your needs, and you need to be able to set boundaries to feel safe, to show up in a more secure way in relationships. And that is the thing that you were missing in your past relationships. You didn't feel that you could ask for your needs, whether it's because your parents didn't have the attention span, or your parents didn't know how to give you what you need, or your parents were just busy doing something else and they didn't know how to show up for you in a way that made you feel safe and taken care of. Or you didn't feel that you could set boundaries because your parents didn't allow you to set boundaries. They were that authority figure and you had to follow what they said no matter what. And there was this like kind of like a power struggle where you didn't feel that you could set boundaries. You felt like you had to follow what they said no matter what. And now in your relationships, you struggle to show up in this way and set boundaries. As an adult, you feel like you have to do whatever other people say. You feel guilt when you don't. And so you retreat from relationships because you don't feel that you can actually assert your boundaries. You don't actually believe that you can ask for what you need, because in the past that was not even met. And I know this can seem like such a difficult attachment style to be dealing with. And in my opinion, having gone through it myself, I feel like it is one of the more complicated ones, because you're constantly doing this push and pull. And you just feel confused and you feel scared, because one day you feel like you really want to be close with this person and you feel like you can be open with them, and then the next you feel like you need to pull away. You feel like you gave too much. You feel like you maybe opened up too much. You were too vulnerable. And so you're going back and forth between these two parts of yourself, and you feel so confused between that. And it makes so much sense. There is nothing wrong with this. For so long, I felt so much shame for the patterns that I experienced from this attachment style. And this is why I'm so passionate about making these videos, about showing up in here and sharing these things with you, because now I don't feel so much shame around this. I don't feel as much resistance around showing up and sharing my needs, sharing my boundaries. Of course, I am still learning how to do this on different levels with different people, but on a basic level, I know I can ask for my needs and I know I can set boundaries, and I don't have to feel scared by the other person's reaction. I don't have to be scared of are other people thinking I'm a bad person? Are other people thinking I am inadequate? inadequate. And if this is how you feel now, just know that this is temporary. You are on this channel, and if this is something you want to learn more about and you want to heal out of this, subscribe to this channel, because I'm going to be sharing so much more about this attachment style. You can 100% heal this, and you are not stuck, and you're not going to stay like this forever. Whatever you're experiencing, whatever stuckness, resistance, or any feelings of unworthiness, or any feelings of feeling like you're a bad person, they're not actually who you are. They have nothing to do with who you really are. They are just beliefs, and they are just patterns that you have learned and you have used as coping mechanisms to defend and protect yourself. That is all that they are. And once you actually realize this, once you start to see that these are literally just things that were put in place by your fear brain, put in place to protect you, then you start to actually feel so much more open to expanding the way you show up, expanding your beliefs, expanding your thoughts, expanding what you believe is possible for you. Because for me, speaking up my mind, expressing myself, and being vulnerable were so difficult. I literally couldn't physically express myself in the past when I was so stuck in these patterns. I didn't feel like I could actually speak my mind. I didn't actually feel that I could apologize to my partner. I literally just used to shut down and not be able to physically speak. So I know how much these patterns can actually impact you day to day, how much they can actually physically impact you in the way that you're showing up. And for the next and last level of healing is when you actually start to feel more secure in your relationships, when you actually start to show up in a way that is loving, that is open. You don't feel like you have to hold back. You don't feel like you have to show up and kind of people please. You don't have to show up and judge and criticize your partner to kind of control the connection. You don't feel any of those things anymore, and you just feel free to be yourself, to express yourself, to ask for what you need, to set boundaries. And you know that has nothing to do with your worth, that has nothing to do with how good or bad you are. You feel worthy as a human being to ask for your needs, to set boundaries. You're free to express yourself as you are. You don't have to pull away from people. You don't have to put on a mask. You don't have to play these roles. You don't have to manipulate people. You just feel free to be yourself, and you feel comfortable in relationships. You don't feel like you have to hide from people. You won't feel that you are drained when you're around people anymore, because you're not trying to be something you're not. You're not trying to put on a mask. You're not trying to show up in a way that doesn't feel like you. And because relationships don't feel like work anymore, you feel at ease being around anybody, the people that you choose to put in your life, and you don't feel like you have to put on a mask, you have to show up in a certain way. You feel like you have to spend energy trying to make other people think a certain thing of you and trying to control their reactions. You now know that this has nothing to do with you, and whatever way that you are showing up, you are allowed to make mistakes, you're allowed to be human, you are allowed to show up exactly as you are. And if you make a mistake, you can own up to it and take accountability and responsibility. You no longer think of yourself as this bad person who just hurts other people, because that is a belief that I used to have, and I know a lot of other fearful avoidants have it as well. The belief of, I am a bad person, so I need to stay away from people so that I stop hurting them, so that I no longer hurt them. And once I actually healed this belief, I was able to allow myself to be around people and actually enjoy their company without constantly thinking like, am I saying the right thing? Am I doing the right thing? Am I a bad person for saying this? Am I a bad person for doing this? Did they think this of me? Did they think that of me? Like, you're able to just let go of all these judgments and all these things that you were holding over yourself, and like letting go of being like feeling like you're so terrified and you have to show up in this way or you won't be loved. And you're able to let go of all of that and just be in a relationship and just exist as a human being. You don't have so many voices in your head crowding you. That's how I would describe it. That's literally how I would describe it. You don't have all these voices and all this tension in your body. And if you don't really know what the patterns of the fearful avoidant are, and you're not really sure what a secure attachment actually looks like, I have created a free PDF that you can download down below. And in this PDF, I share what the fearful avoidant patterns are, what they look like, and what a secure attachment actually looks like. Because the first step that I mentioned in this video is becoming aware of these patterns. So if you're not sure what the patterns are, or if things show up in your life and you're thinking, I don't really know if this is a fearful avoidant pattern or if this is who I am, because oftentimes we just associate these things and think that they're who we are, but in reality they aren't. They are just a part of this attachment style, and you can actually change them. So if you want to learn more about these patterns and see whether you're actually healing or not, or seeing what patterns are showing up in your life, I will leave the link to that down below. And if you've learned all these patterns and you find yourself thinking, okay, I now know how to show up, but I just don't feel safe showing up in this way. I don't know how to show up in this way. It just doesn't feel safe when I do. I invite you to sign up for the Regulate Your Nervous System to Become Your Dream Woman, because I share practices in there that help you regulate your nervous system so that you're able to show up in this new way, so that you can actually show up in whatever way feels the most natural to you, and you can let go of this resistance and discomfort that you feel that makes you think you can't show up in this new way because it is unsafe. And the link to that will also be in the description down below. And I really want to hear back from you what you thought of this video. Did any parts resonate more than others? What part of your journey are you on? I want you to share that in the comments down below, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.